Crypto market as of today is barely in green for the last 24 hours. And if we look at the market, it's clearly mixed and nothing much in the price action terms, right? You don't actually see a lot of fluctuations happening on a daily basis. And some of these assets actually suggest that it can actually drop towards a support before it actually takes another leg up. But at the same time, on the fundamental side of this, you get different ideas. Say, for example, this clearly shows you fundamentally it's thriving. It's actually showing you the use case of XRP ledger and how things can evolve from here. Then you look at the macro, the systematic stuff there. And as you look at this one, you actually see all these big names. And why are they here? Because this is clearly about finance. This is clearly about payments, the transactions. They are focusing on how to actually implement all the layers of a payments, messaging, settlement, everything. Clear? So the fundamentals on that side is so great. But on this side, which is the systematic end on the economy, it does not actually look that great. Right now we are here and that's way lower than this one. So are we going much lower? No one knows. But yes, you need to clearly identify how things are evolving. If SEC is headed towards this direction, how many exchanges can stand tall? That is going to be a huge, big thing. Because if couple of exchanges cannot actually do their proof of reserves clearly, they have to move a lot of funds here and there, then it becomes a red flag and you see more pain in the market. So yes, fundamentals are evolving. Different analysts and different fund managers are actually talking about different targets, but some of these actually give you an idea of what they are looking at for the near term, maybe next 6 months. This is in the eyes, but 100% you do get the FUD. It's never a clear market, especially during the times when the prices are so low, people don't want you to buy. They want you to sell at that range and push the price even lower so they can buy at that range. So the fear which will be pushed into the market is going to be sky high. Make sure you understand what it is in reality and take a decision for yourself instead of just listening to someone else. You take in all of these data and then process it inside before you make a final judgment. Last time, as we discussed, dollar drops and it drops like 13%, 14%. In between, it lands in an area close to 10% and then drops the last leg. That's where historically crypto has moved. So are we going to see something similar this time? Are we going to observe some of these assets taking off, especially XRP? That's what we're going to discuss today. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. The throat is still a little bit painful, swallowing it's really hard. So I'll try to be a little bit slow and clear because I don't want you guys to get confused with the language which is already non-native English. So now this is XRP. Fine. On a 12-hour chart, which is not that too short term but not macro. What we're observing here is that the price actually returned back to this level. Why is that important? Because then you go look at Ether and you go on a 12-hour time horizon and it feels like, okay, Ether is going to come back down. If that's what XRP did, and if Ether follows down towards this range, now I would say like, okay, it's not XRP following Ether, it's XRP front running these assets, which will be a clear terminology to use because of the way the market is behaving. And then you actually put in this trend line and you're like, okay, this is holding from some time. And I do believe that it has the strength to hold further. Because right now you're trying to test the moving average. If you happen to bounce through that, that's good, that's great. But what we want to see here is where the momentum lies. Is the momentum to the upside or to the downside, right? So for that, in general, you look at the Bitcoin market and you're like, okay, wave one, you did that. Wave two, you're doing this. So people are talking like it's going to come back down to this level. So no wave three, fine, great, it's up to them. But what we are interested in right now is like either you can go onto a 12-hour chart and then, break it down, or you can literally observe it in a 4-hour chart. What we are mainly interested in is actually understanding which direction is the momentum. Because momentum clearly dictates whether it's the buyers or sellers. So if you are looking at it here, the momentum was to the downside. You got one leg to the downside and another leg like this. So then the question becomes, okay, that's downside. So it's a correction or it's a trend to the downside. So we want to know what it is. And it clearly shows you like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're done. So that was a short-term trend. Now, this is a 4-hour chart. That does mean it's a ultra short-term trend we are looking at. But right now, it gives you an idea here that you first actually show a trend to the upside, you consolidate there, and then do a wick to the downside like this, and then start going back up. Now, when you go back up, you get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is actually showing you that's the direction which I'm headed. Then again, you do the same stuff like this. You do a consolidation here. I'll put that in yellow. And same thing here. You get a wick to the upside. You get a wick to the upside. Then you drop to the downside, putting in this fear before it actually moved back up. Fine. So you're getting that repeatedly in the market, that the market does this thing. So it can be just an algorithm. It can be a trading bot who's following same logic before it actually enters an exit. So you also get to see that it is creating a trend line here. So that's Bitcoin. Now you look at what's happening. You had something similar to this one here. You went up, you are correcting, and inside that correction, you got that wick here. So now I'm asking like, okay, last time it was at the end. This time, did the algorithm change? Did that change? If it did, we are waiting to see whether it's breaking 16,800 or not. If it breaks, yeah, the algorithm changed. Just the difference is the wick now is at the central part, like what we got here, right? You have this 2-leg side and then another small one instead of just one. So if we get a small version of the wick lower here and a bounce, now you can assume that the price is going to do something like this. Again, this is short term, so you're not looking for the same price action to happen on the long-term horizon. For the long-term horizon, you can slowly go on to a higher time frame chart and then ask yourself, what are you observing? Here you got supported and that's your long-term support. Then if you are focusing on the price action, you got this, and then the price revisited that same range at the bottom and started moving to the upside. So yes, that was not a huge run, but it did come back lower to put in a higher low to this one and a higher high, which kind of shows you like, okay, I'm doing something. So on a short term, which is like, ultra short term, you can actually put this like the nano waves here, not even the micro. You got a nano 3-wave structure which is completed. So what am I anticipating based on a daily chart? I would say, okay, after that, usually you should actually get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If that's the corrective trend. But before you start the next one, when you actually get this, it usually is an A, B, C correction. So we are literally, for me, I would say we are giving more weightage on this one. But as this is a short-term leg to the downside, and on the macro, you still have a long way to go to test this range of support. That is like 19,000. So the price can also bounce. But the first question is like, okay, whenever we observe this, we talked about this from ages in different assets. You cross to the upside and moving average, the price comes back down. You cross to the downside and the moving averages, you go back up. You see this all the time. You then see the price moving back down when the moving averages are crossing to the downside, upside from the downside. Now you see the same here. The price is trying to stay there at a time when the moving average is trying to cross. But the issue there is Not all the indicators are as strong as MACD. MACD is trading to the upside. It's trying to cross to the upside. But the RSI is kind of flat. And it's flat after coming out of this pattern, which actually is a concern for me. Because the strength actually shows like, okay, I'm reducing in my strength. We broke lower, we retested, and I'm not being able to go back up. And that is a concern if you are a short-term guy, or if you are monitoring the market on a short term, you would clearly say like, okay, I do identify that the pattern on the macro is like this, but on the short term, I do see some pain. The price can be pushed down by the market, and that can still happen. So now you're actually going all the way back and you're checking whether the indicator actually shows you that there is a roof which is being taken out. Not right now. Right now, you're in an area where you're trying to take out that roof, but you're not able to do that. Now, take all this idea into XRP and look at it right now. It is actually bouncing, fine. And at the same time, you see this as your resistance. So now we are at that decision point where the final question becomes like, okay, either you can make this and say it's a rounded bottom pattern where your measured move is this, say for example 5.61%. So if you get a breakout, you're saying okay, the price can actually go a little bit higher to 0.37. Now you can also, being valid, you can also say this is a double bottom pattern where it's showing you a reversal. That's also good. Now both of them are a reversal signal, and that happening just above a support zone is actually a good thing. But the issue here is that your measured move comes just at that resistance. This is the previous support, which is going to be our resistance, and your measured move is there. So there is a possibility that you may do this. That's okay. That's great. That's good. But then again, you may come back down. Now, if you bounce back from here, that's good. You're going to go higher. If not, you're going to come back lower, right? These are like the short-term price movement in the market. And that does show a lot of volatility. But then you go back into this macro and you're like, okay, we talked about a possibility that the price can come back to this side. And that's what we put in the worst case scenario here. You can do that. But what we don't want to see is that this breaking to the downside. So technically speaking, that's what the market is showing you. But on the fundamental side, the systemic side of crypto, Binance is an exchange with the most volume for most of the assets I've seen. You come here, you go into any assets which you want to look at and go down to the markets. And inside markets, now you look at the volume. Right now for Bitcoin, HIT BTC BTC is having higher. Then Binance, it's the third one with that volume. Great. Now you go back. Now you can go to XRP. Now you can go to different exchanges, different assets, and you do the same, and you see Binance plays an important role in this asset class. Binance plays a huge role in this asset class. One by one, you can go look at whatever assets you have in your portfolio and look where the volume is maximum. So if someone is saying, okay, Binance is going bankrupt, then the crypto is kind of done for next 3 to 5 years, most likely. Then people actually will give you the Tether, saying, okay, Tether is going to blow up. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be negative. But my real concern here is, are you buying a leveraged asset? Say you are an XRP holder. You are buying any asset for that matter. Let it be a mouse. Let it be anything. Right? If you consider you're buying something with dollar, and now you want to sell that in Canadian dollar, that's okay. You want to sell in Indian rupees, that's okay, because you have that asset. Whatever, depreciating or appreciating, you have that. Fine. Similarly, you bought XRP, you have XRP, not a paired stuff. So when I see this confusion, I'm like, no, don't go to that side of it. If you are leveraged, yes, you are trading that pair. If not, you have that asset. You can sell it to Binance Coin, you can sell it to Bitcoin, you can sell it to Ether, and then move out in whichever stable coin you want. So don't go to that rabbit hole saying this is going to be like so bad. Now you come back here, look at the volume. Tether is having the highest volume. A lot of people say they don't have the reserves. Go check the banking system. Even a lot of central banks give the ability for banks to hold zero cash. Say you go put in $1 million in a bank today, and tomorrow there is nothing left. They don't have any obligation to hold everything or even 10% there. The mandate is zero for, say, Canada. For India, it's 4.5%. We just had a discussion today. Early this morning, we were talking with a diamond member and we were having this discussion. And I'm like, yeah, most of people don't realize the fact how the banking system actually works. They would be worried, right? If it's only $1 million available, you put $1 million in the bank, I go to the same bank, I loan it out, and then I go deposit that in another bank. Now it's $2 million. That bank will lend it out to someone. Now it's $3 million. This continues. So that 1 million now becomes maybe 100 or a billion at a time. And then people come back, get my money. Where is the money? No money, bank run. That's what's happening in different sector. Because the system is created like this. So if they have 50% reserve, that's huge. The banks don't even have 5. So this is how you think. Now, this is how I think. If you digest that properly and you're like, okay, I get that point. This is what's happening. Now you don't fear all this FUD coming in the market. Then it's about people trying to just get the attention. That's different path. If you're putting in information and taggings, which is related to someone, it's fine. But a lot of people are like, I want to become big in Twitter. Everyone wants to, even I want. But we're not actually going to do the stuff like, okay, I'm going to FUD someone in that area to get viewers. That's, you need to understand what's happening in the market and then stay away from this. Because if you're watching the news over and over again, it'll be hard. Now, what you want to look at is what's the narrative which they're giving in. So here, Tom Lee actually believed that the inflation is going to go below 2%. Now, there's a huge possibility we may even have a negative. The way the central banks push the interest rate to the sky in the short time span. Now, remember, he's actually saying, like the Fed is actually saying next year we're going to do 75, the total next year. And this year, they were doing 75 in just one hike. So now the impact of this one hike over next year is to be measured. And then they remember, okay, we have done several of these hikes last year, meaning this year. And next year, all of this is going to come back into the market. So looking at the dollar, you understand that clearly that's dropping. Looking at the Dow Jones, you are like, okay, this is not dropping. There is something happening. Then you are looking at individual stocks which are getting obliterated. Say Tesla, it's down 70%. I know people who were talking about buying Tesla here at the support. Then it just broke to the downside. I really remember when I told you guys that, okay, I think this is a good buy at 160, 165. It's doubled by then. So trend line and history, psychology of the market is so important. A lot of people do not pay attention to it. If you see something like this, which is like 10, 20 years, the asset is following this, most likely it's going to follow that. What if it doesn't? Yeah, that's the one time you're going to be wrong. Fine. But if you are willing to test the opposite, now you are going against the odds. If the market shows you this is what I'm doing, don't go against it. Now, will there be consolidation inside this? It should be there. But what I'm talking about is this is your support. And that's your long-term support. Now, keep that in mind. Then you actually go in towards the crypto market because you really want to actually look at what the crypto market looks like. So here in trading, you don't actually get the entire picture here before that. So it's actually a little bit confusing. So you then actually go back into the altcoin market cap here in the coin trader because it's actually designed for the crypto coins. It actually gives you much more information. Fine. Then you're like, okay, if I'm doing this trend where I'm clearly putting in higher highs, higher lows, then I'm going up in a cycle. Now, there will be confusion. I'll try to solve that. Say, for example, here, you'll say, okay, there is a 1, 2, and 3. Yes, there is. That's one market cycle. This one I'm showing is a different cycle. Fine. So if you look at the major stuff, you will clearly identify that we put in a higher high, higher lows, higher high, higher lows, and a higher high. Is this one too high from this? I don't think so. It does look like this. There is no much difference which the market actually gives you. There is nothing you can actually delete from that and say it does not reflect the market. The market actually clearly shows here I'm somewhere in the cycle. Look at this. You came from here. So if you are a technical guy and you are looking at this asset class and saying like, okay, this just happened, but I believe this is going in a bear market. Now you need to actually question yourself with that point. You broke to the upside. What is your upside? Right? You're not looking at the trend. You're looking at the pattern, and you say the pattern shows you that it can do a 10 to 12x. So you take your measured move and plot it high, and you're like, okay, there is a long way to go inside this one. So what's happening right now? We call it a retest. You break to the upside, and then you come back, retest that. So initially you are inside this pattern, you broke to the upside direction. Now you come back and you are retesting this. Fine, that's all good, that's all great. But if you are here and you're saying, okay, I'm not a trend-based guy, I want to look at the macro trend, not the pattern, I'm not a pattern-based guy, then you're like, okay, fine. You can look at the standard deviations, you can plot it all, and we have talked about this for a long time. If you are super optimistic about this market, about how the assets are moving, you can look at this standard deviation as well. If you're so conservative, you're looking at this part. But even that part is actually showing you it's opening up a wedge where it's 40 to 80x. Some of these coins are going to do 800. Because when the average market does 80, we have seen last time, some of the coins actually go crazy. Now, if you try to catch all those, it's going to be hard. Whereas if you try and stay out of the coins which you think is going to go through the drains, this may help you. One of the things which I would like to actually show you guys on time this time is we talked about this possibility. Earlier today, I was actually informing my members that there is a possibility, significant one, you may drop to the downside. So don't get confused in that area saying people are giving you information like, okay, there's a lot of NFTs being built. What's the price of NFT market right now? What's the total volume right now? What was it at the peak? Right? We know this is happening. So don't go naive saying this is not going to end in a measured move, or at least close to that. So when you actually see this, you need to ask that question. Okay, am I observing something? If you are observing something, then completely don't go against it. Maybe TA is wrong, but wait for it. What's the technical information? Wait for it. What's the fundamental information? Combine both of those. At this point here, you were getting a lot of network outage. You were getting a lot of network outage. So automatically, that network was not scalable above this point. Now it's going down. The developers are working on it. I'm not saying this is going to zero. I'm saying they will rebuild this, and in the next market cycle, it's going to do wonders. Great. But right now, the momentum is to the downside. There is no other clear signal than this one for you. When you're dropping like this and you get this big of a pain with the market dropping on the FTX, you do not see like this for a lot of different assets. They're still above the Luna crash area, which is great, whereas this one just dropped. So if you are in this asset and you're assuming that the market is going to do 80 and you're going to get 800 or even 80, good luck. So that's why being in the market and being in the right asset is going to be important. And if you are looking for that kind of information, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. And guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. And if you have 5 more minutes, please do visit this channel of mine. It's about life, success, and being motivated every single day to push forward and to achieve your dreams. So guys, if you like that one, do subscribe to that channel as well. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.